Hey, I am here with the world famous Brian Courtney. I should say internationally famous. It has
Oh
a
my
little more of the
goodness.
James Bond flair to it. You kind of got that James Bond vibe going on, my man. How are you?
Thank you, John. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Let me give you a short introduction here. And if I mess this up, Brian, just please feel free to correct me. You grew up in Wisconsin. You graduated from the University of Wisconsin Platteville. You spent just over 10 years as an engineer in the automotive industry before transitioning into recruiting. And that explains your fascination with fine cars, by the way. I didn't know that about you before. So that's interesting. We'll get into more of that later. But you transitioned into recruiting and you've owned your own recruiting business for the last 25 years. You're also a managing partner with WorldBridge Partners, which is a nationally recognized Forbes best recruiting firm. You're also highly entrepreneurial. You've got nearly 30 years rather of experience trading the financial markets and also investing in small businesses. What did I miss? What did I leave out?
Oh, well, that's probably more than enough and more than people need to know. But thank you for the kind introduction. And
Oh,
the only thing international you said about me is that I did
yeah,
live internationally. As you may recall, I lived in Australia for 3 years,
you did. Yes.
quite some time ago. But yes, no, I think you summarized it quite well.
Okay, excellent. We'll get back to Australia because I'm kind of fascinated about that too. Somewhere I've always wanted to go and I've never quite made it. I spent some time in the South Pacific in the service, but never made it quite as far as Australia. And I've heard wonderful things about that country, by the way. And anyway, Brian, what I do and we've talked about this. And by the way, you and I know each other, so that's no
Yeah.
secret, right? We're friends. I met you at a Chamber of Commerce mixer event here in Las Vegas. I don't know, 7, 8 months ago, maybe something like that,
It's
somewhere in there.
actually over a year ago. Time
Over
flies.
a year ago, really?
Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yep.
My gosh. Yeah, time does fly because I didn't realize it'd been that long. Well, great. You can always tell when you have a good friend because it feels like you've never known them very long, and then all of a sudden, boom, the time goes by, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is I'm interviewing people from different walks of life, and I record these interviews. I put them on my YouTube channel. They're not highly edited. They're very organic. You know, we just go where the conversation takes
Sure.
us. And there are people I choose to interview are people who are doing what my second book is about, which is called Have the Life You Really Want instead of the one you're stuck in now. And I know you, and we've talked enough that I know that you are living the life you really want to live. And so I always have a couple of quick kickoff questions that I like to get the interview started with. And the first one is this: even though you're now living the life you've really wanted to live and you've probably been living it for some time, was there ever a time in your life when you ever felt stuck or like you weren't going to get there?
How long do you have?
We have unlimited
So,
time,
so
Brian.
the obvious answer is yes, but you told me that you were going to ask me that question, so obviously
Right.
I gave it some thought, and it was interesting during my thought process because I really had to dig deep. I didn't have to dig deep to find challenging times in my life, but to find a time when I really felt stuck. That doesn't kind of resonate with me, meaning I kind of
Mm-hmm.
look back at times and we can go into specifics and maybe I should just take one point or give one
Sure.
example.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, one example. So first, I was a little bit of a problem child in high school with divorced parents and was able to run pretty wild. And so just as a little bit of a rebel, parents always said, yeah, you will go to college. And my rebelness said, no, I'm not going to college. But it wasn't until the day that I graduated high school that I realized, hey, got to do something with my life because I was working, full-time job whilst in high school, and I didn't want to be a laborer my whole life. So
Right.
I decided to go to college. And so the whole first year of going to college, was in a dorm, had good friends and had a lot of fun. But I'd wake up in the morning and I felt like I don't belong here. I'm not smart enough to go to college. I don't think I can do this for 4 years. So that was a thought that came up every morning. I'm not exaggerating. Every morning when I was showering. But then during the day, as the day went on, it subsided. And then as months went on, and I was, 6 months to a year into, finishing my first year, I was starting to feel, well, maybe you can do this. So I don't know that I felt stuck, but it there wasn't an event that turned it around. It was just the stick to itiveness and just keep on keeping on that got me through.
Sounds to me like it was more imposter syndrome maybe than being stuck or feeling trapped with I'm not sure I belong here. I'm not sure this is for. I'm not sure I'm smart enough. That kind of, what they recall, what's referred to as imposter syndrome
Got it.
these days.
Yeah, and most of that was just because I screwed off so much my junior and senior year of high school.
Right.
Frankly, if they weren't so nice to me, meaning there was a couple of people that did me favors, meaning teachers, that they didn't have to pass me. And if they wouldn't have passed me, I can guarantee you I wouldn't have gone to summer school to complete my high school degree. Maybe years later I might have, but I got some good breaks. And because of that, I went to college. But to what you're saying about being an imposter, that's maybe a good way of looking at it, that I just didn't believe that I fit there, even though I was felt that I was not as smart, but as smart as many of the people that I knew.
Yeah. I mean, you knew deep down, I'm sure that you belonged, that you could do this. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you would not have stuck with it. And by the way, that stick to itiveness, that persistence, is huge. I wear a bracelet. You've seen it. It says "never quit" on it, right?
Yep.
And I think there is so much to that because people that are truly successful, in my opinion, that's one of the traits they possess is they never quit, they never give up, they never surrender. And that's what you did. You kept, even though you may have felt uncomfortable, you probably felt very uncomfortable. You may have felt like a fish out of water. You may have felt like wondering, is this really something? Is this really for me? Is this something I want to do or not? Blah, blah, blah. All of that, you stuck to it. And because of that, then you got what I call comfortable being uncomfortable. And then you surpassed that. And of course, became very successful in college and beyond, obviously. Is
Yeah.
that a fair assessment?
Very fair assessment. Because I don't know when I totally got over that feeling, but I do remember, my sophomore year feeling comfortable at college, and then my junior and senior years were great. It just the friends and the classes that I took and the things that we did were all great experiences.
Right.
So that was one example, and then we could fast forward in life to more
Sure.
challenging times of my life. But however you want to proceed.
Yeah, let's talk about a challenging time.
Okay. Well, I was an engineer out of college. I didn't have a problem, even though I graduated in a time when the economy was very poor and a lot of people weren't finding jobs. I was very lucky to get a job right away. And
Okay.
so I never had a problem finding a job. I worked for a metal fabrication manufacturing company. Didn't really care for it. Worked there a few years though, learned a lot, and then moved on to a silkscreen printing company. Loved the company, loved the owner, all the people there. But I've been living in Wisconsin my whole life. And I know it's a big world out there, and I always had a desire to be more, do more, travel, and all that. And I had the opportunity to go to work for a company in Arizona. And I don't know why Arizona always resonated with me in the back of my mind, but it did. And lo and behold, I got a job. I lived there 5 years, worked for a top, Fortune 100 company that, was in the airbag manufacturing at the very earlier stages of airbags going into mass production. So I was on the cutting edge of that, which was great. After 5 years, I was getting stale. I went to a competitor company in Florida. Probably every move was a good move, but there was no real reason. It was just kind of a change of geography, moving from Arizona to Florida. But
Right.
life takes you where you're supposed to be. I've always believed that. And had I not taken that job in Florida, my other lifelong dream was Australia. That always stuck in my head as a place I wanted to go and see. And because I took the job in Florida, I was assigned the Ford of Australia account. So I got to travel to Australia.
Oh, cool.
And after I had traveled there, I got to travel again just a few months later because there was a major quality problem and I had to be there and rectify and a problem and come up with solutions, and did that. I was there for a month, and after being there a month, I was now so in love with Australia that you cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few months, there was another competitor airbag company, actually a seatbelt company that made airbags as well in other countries.
Okay.
They were looking to get the Ford of Australia account. And they had an inside track and knew that they were going to win that account from the company that I was working with. I didn't know that, but they did.
Right.
And one of my good buddies who knew I loved Australia, he was approached by a recruiter. And he goes, listen, I just got a call from a recruiter. They're looking to hire 2 to 3 engineers because nobody in Australia has ever worked with airbags. So they don't have that expertise in Australia.
Okay.
So
Right.
fast forward 5 months, because the interview process took a while, but I was one of the 3 engineers that ended up getting hired to go to Australia on a 3-year contract to help
Nice.
set up their airbag manufacturing facility.
Very nice. And what part of Australia did you live in?
Melbourne.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
great
Which
city.
is Melbourne the second largest city in Australia,
Correct.
Mike? Is that right? Okay.
Correct. It's about 500 kilometers or maybe even 700 kilometers south of Sydney, but on the
Okay.
very south east edge of Australia.
Okay.
And yeah, just a great, wonderful city. Had the best 3 years of my life. I wasn't overly fond of my job. I've
Right.
been an engineer a number of years, and I was kind of getting burnt out. And after the assignment ended, I moved back to the States, and I was interviewing for a bunch of jobs, and I was being offered pretty decent salaries because of my expertise and my experience.
Right.
And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, gosh, I'm just going to be unhappy if I take this job, even though it was like a 6-figure job. And back then, like I'd never come close to making 6 figures. So
Right.
the recruiter that placed me to go to Australia called me and said, why don't you try this? Why don't you try recruiting? I think you'd be good at it. And I never thought about it. And I was a little reluctant, to be quite honest, just because of the stigma of what I thought recruiters, a lot of them were just kind of cutthroat and after themselves, kind of used car salesmen. But I knew a couple of very good recruiters that I respected. And I talked to them and they said, Brian, I think you do great. I think you should go for it. So I gave up the potential of having a 6-figure income to zero.
Huh.
Zero salary, 100% commission.
Oh, wow.
But,
Wow.
I knew I could do it. So,
Yep.
and it wasn't easy. But I did get into the recruiting industry and I got in at a good time, meaning the industry was very hot. The economy, I should say, 98, 99, 2000. And
Right.
then I went out on my own and the market was starting to go really bad. And the dot-com bust happened about March 2001 and every company stopped hiring. So we're getting to my second major challenge.
Right.
I had gone out on my own and didn't have any business yet because of my no compete.
Right.
And, then when the dot-com bust hit, you could call any company and you weren't going to find anyone hiring.
Right.
And so,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. What great timing, right? That's what
yeah,
you're probably thinking. Yeah.
but it wouldn't have mattered had I stayed with the other company. There was no,
Yeah.
they were in the same boat.
Gotcha.
So it ended up being a good thing because my 6-month no compete, there was no business. So I didn't have anything to compete with.
Right.
It was the most challenging financial time in my life because I had the first 2.5 years of recruiting for this firm. I got up to the 6-figure income. So I was accustomed to that, but
Right.
living out of my means. But still, when you go to an income to zero for months upon months, I didn't have a big savings account and things dwindled. So I was living on credit cards, paying off credit cards with other credit cards, accumulating debt, did borrow some money from family, which was embarrassing. But that was a very challenging, difficult part of my life just because of what, was the mental part of it,
Right.
not making
Right.
any money and waiting for that next bill to come and seeing the percent interest you're paying on a credit card.
Right.
But, every if I think had it not been for all of the training that I'd been through, when I say training, I'm talking about the hundreds of books that I read on personal development and this and that, I might have not have got through it. But I knew that economies turn around, and I just had to stick it out. There was nothing I could do. I mean, I could call on every company and maybe find a job here or there, but it was just a very difficult, I would say, 12 to 14 months. And then things slowly turned around, and
Right.
got everything paid off. Business was starting to get good, and so to speak, never looked back from a financial perspective. But it was
Yeah, because that's another, not to cut you off, but that's another example, in my opinion, just listening to you talk about that, Brian, of the never quit mentality. I mean, you did not, nowhere in that entire story that narrative that you just gave, did I hear any sense of or any thought of ever quitting or giving up or stopping. You were just gonna, even though it was painful, even though it was hard, even though you didn't know, you couldn't see the whole path. You saw maybe the next step, and that was it. You were gonna persevere, right?
Well, I knew it was going to turn around. I just
Yeah,
didn't know how long it would take and how much
right.
pain I would endure. And believe me, things went through my head like, well, maybe you should deliver pizzas or something like that.
Yeah.
I never did that. I just kept, like you
But
said, just
but
stuck.
you were willing to endure the pain, right?
Yeah.
Which most, not most, I shouldn't categorize people that way. A lot of people have trouble with that. They don't understand that. A lot of people experience some kind of pain in their life, and they look for what they do. In my opinion, from what my perspective and what I've seen over the years, and correct me if you think I'm out of bounds here, but I think they look for a solution to that pain, right? Maybe a quick fix. Maybe they're not thinking about, okay, if I navigate this pain, then eventually I'll get to the other side of it, and there may be something great on the other side. Probably will be. They don't, but they tend to not see things that way, and that's just my opinion.
No,
I
I
may be all
agree
wrong.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. And
but that wasn't what you did,
that's
obviously.
not what I did. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think about what other thing could I have done? I mean, I couldn't get a job as an engineer because no companies were hiring.
Right.
There was no retreating. It's kind of like, thinking we're rich, burn the boats,
Yep. Burn the boats, burn the ships.
burn
Yep.
the boats and move on. And that's what I did. Is I was like committed, and I just had to endure the pain. It was kind of the torture until
The
the
torture.
war was over and the prisoner was released.
and the prisoner, and the war did end, and the
Yeah.
prisoner did get released, and now the prisoner is the victor. So
Yeah,
it's interesting how that works, right? So can I talk a little bit, or can I ask
please.
you about your Six Sigma training?
Certainly. Well, as a quality engineer, way before Six Sigma was even um, like today, there are people that have green belts and black belts in terms of
Okay.
Six Sigma training. And then there's what's called a master black belt. So someone that's gone beyond what the training and all of the things that you have to do to become a Six Sigma, call it master. But the question is, how did I get into it?
Yeah, kind of take me through it a little bit. Some
Yeah,
people
well,
listening, they may not know what Six Sigma is. I know that wasn't it Jack Welch at GE that was kind of where that all began or started,
not
or
quite.
not?
It
Okay.
happened before Jack Welch. It happened a
Okay.
company called Motorola out of Chicago.
Yep, I know Motorola.
So
Yep.
Motorola, there was an article, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and this would have been 1988 or 7 or 8. It said Motorola Six Sigma. So back then, as an engineer, I was working in quality and process improvement. So we did what was called design of experiments. And that's where there's man, method, materials, and machine. And you take each 4 and you have different combinations. So you have 4 different types of material that you run in maybe 2 different types of machines with different operators and different methods of input. And then through the computer, you spit out what's the optimal process. And it depends on how deep you want to go into it. But it will show you the best bang for your results. So again, today there are departments called Lean Six Sigma or Continuous Improvement Lean Six Sigma. and that's all they do is work in the manufacturing field or in the, somewhere in the plant and try to improve efficiencies and reduce waste.
Okay.
So Six Sigma is, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I believe Six Sigma, if you achieve Six Sigma, that means out of 1 million parts, I think it's only 6 are going to be out of specification.
Got
So to achieve Six Sigma, you're almost at 100%.
Yeah, you're almost perfect, right?
But think about that. If you're a drug company and you got one of those and you're at Six Sigma, but there's still 4 bad, maybe pills out there. So the point is that Six Sigma, there's many ways to drive it, but it's what everyone in the automotive industry and many other industries strive to achieve.
Okay. All right. Do you feel like that informed how you look at the world at all after that, after you started getting involved in that? Or did it dovetail with what your philosophy already was?
Yeah, I think it just dovetailed because I've always been a very methodical person and think, okay, even in the kitchen, okay, if I'm doing this goes here, this goes, and think of a process and think of the quickest way of doing it versus going back here and doing this one. Well, had you done that, this was already ready, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So one of the things that impressed me about you when I first met you, I mean, there's a lot of things, obviously, Brian, because you're just an impressive guy. Let's be honest.
You're too
but
kind.
No, I am too, but I'm not too kind. I'm kind, but I'm serious too, because that's just who you are. You and I kind of connected when we met, I felt like, and we've talked about that, which is kind of interesting because I don't connect with a lot of people like that. And you were we were one of the ones I certainly did very, very rapidly. But one of the things that I really really impressed me with was you actually have written out, and it's not I don't know how to phrase it. I'll let you describe it. It's kind of your life plan. It's how you lived your life. And I saw that, and my jaw dropped because I've never seen anybody ever, including myself, that has ever done it. Can you talk about that a little bit? Would you like to, or not?
Sure. Well, I've been reading books in personal development and was introduced to Napoleon Hill when I was too young to get it.
Right.
So I wasn't ready for it, but other books resonated more with me. But Napoleon,
and for people that don't know Napoleon Hill, he wrote Think and Grow Rich back in the 30s, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Took 20 years to write the book.
Right. Didn't he follow Dale Carnegie around, or
no? Well, Andrew Carnegie was
Andrew Carnegie. That's right.
Suggested that he take on the assignment that might take him 20 years.
That's right.
He wouldn't be paid whilst doing it, but Andrew Carnegie had all the connections, introduced him to Henry Ford, to Tom Edison, to presidents, to the biggest CEOs of companies out there.
Right. And this all actually happened. This is real. This is real.
This is 100% real.
This is not a novel. This is not a story. This is real.
This is nonfiction, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich several times, and then I used to make it an annual journey to read it, just to, as Stephen Covey would say, sharpen the saw every year. It's the end of the year, time to read something, and you're always going to get something. No matter how many times you read something, you'll find something new, or something resonates with you in a different way. But it was 2012 that I decided to take a leadership course through Napoleon Hill. And that's where I really got rooted and developed this, or not developed, but I had, the 17 success principles. Now, when Napoleon Hill wrote his book, Think and Grow Rich, there's 13 principles, but then it was revamped when both he and W. Clement Stone wrote Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And I think that book came out very early 1970s. So there are 17 success principles, which are ingrained in my head, and I can pop them off in like 10 seconds. But so every one of them, I have, a couple of pages of verbiage tied to that success principle. And then Um, yeah, that was about a 3-month course that I did. And so
Okay.
2012, I'd had some very good years of recruiting because I'd been recruiting up to that time, gosh, 13, 14 years.
Right.
But after I took that course, um, the very next year, I had my best year ever.
Awesome.
Coincidence? Maybe. It was a good economy for sure. That always has something to do with it.
Mhm.
But I'm sure that had a lot to do with it as well. Just because when your
Yeah.
mind's focused on something, that's where you go.
Yeah, you're thinking success. I mean, you have 17 very specific and defined, well-defined success principles. You have actually taken ownership of those because you've written your own, not your own take, but how you're going to probably apply those in your own life and kind of how you see it working in your own
Correct.
life. And so you've essentially built a life, a success, a life blueprint or a successful life blueprint rather, right?
Yeah.
When do you feel like you really truly started living the life you really wanted instead of one that maybe you had just been handed or just had just happened up to that point? Was there ever a define, and that might be a loaded question. I apologize
Yeah.
for that one, but there might it's my sense that in people's lives when they get to that point, they kind of can go back, especially looking down the rear view, and maybe spot a time or an area or a place where they might have started to feel that way. Is that true for you or not?
I don't think I ever gave myself enough credit along the way, but I
Right.
can say the last 2 to 3 years, even though I've had success prior to that, it's
Hmm.
that I started really feeling, as I travel, as you know, a fair bit. I'll take
Yep.
3 international trips a year and other trips within the US, and just thinking about, wow, I kind of I don't take it for granted, but I was taking for granted I can travel when I want and where I want. And I'm
Right.
starting to realize that, wow, I really am living the life that I've been looking for.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. How does that make you feel?
Well, you don't want it to make you feel complacent, or I
Right.
don't want it to make me feel complacent. I
Hmm.
want it to feel nothing but appreciation and gratitude, which is really, I think, one reason why I can't remember the last time I woke up not feeling happy or excited to get up. I mean, we're talking 15 years ago, just because of my programming my mind and
Right.
saying things before I go to bed that makes me sleep well and wake up, with
Yeah.
that attitude.
So you believe in the power of affirmations, obviously.
100%.
Yeah, I believe in visualization as well. And I
Absolutely.
imagine that's probably a big part of it. And
Yep.
these are kind of things we haven't talked about before, but I think it's very intriguing and very interesting. And I like what you say. I can't remember the time that I woke up not feeling happy, because I think for a lot of people, Brian, and maybe the majority of people, a lot of people wake up feeling, and there's what's I talk about longing and discontent, right? Things people want they don't have, and things they want that they have they want less of or don't want to have, like habit, situations, circumstances, that kind of stuff. And I think they wake up and they focus on those, and they don't feel happy. So to me, it's interesting and very makes me feel good to hear you say that. Let me put it to you that way. It makes me feel good to hear you say, I can't remember the last time I didn't wake up not feeling happy. Waiting to greet, truly carpe diem, seize the day, welcome the
Yeah.
day with both arms, right? Very
Yeah.
neat.
Well,
That's
it
very neat.
definitely took years of programming to get
Sure.
there, and anybody can get there that's willing to suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
So let
and
me
I
ask
don't
you
mean
this.
suffer in as bad as that might sound,
No, I know.
but we all suffer in our own way, or we choose to suffer with
Yeah.
how we interpret and want to put ourselves through whatever we're putting ourselves through.
Yeah, and I think the pain exists where when you're in that space where between longing and discontent, where you don't have what you want and you have things you don't want. I think that's where that pain lives. Maybe you're where the suffering is. And I think people that put in the work, that are willing to do the work and put in the work, are the ones like you did and like you do. I mean, because this is not something that it's not a one and done with you. This is not a one off. This is your life. This is your lifestyle, your philosophy, right?
Well, absolutely. And as
Yeah.
we're um, coming upon the end of the year, I always spend the last week plus of the year reflecting first on what happened in 2025. What did I not like about it? What did I love about it? What would I like to do different?
Right.
And then more importantly is planning, because learn from the past, but don't dwell in it. It's great to learn from the past, but don't get stuck in it. And
Exactly.
so I'm, spending the last few days and still working on 2026, because I don't ever want to be comfortable with where I'm at. That doesn't mean I have to make X amount of more money, but I don't ever want atrophy to set in. And
Right.
if you're not growing, what are you doing? I mean,
If you're not growing, the way I see it, if you're not growing, you're dying, man. There's no middle
I
ground.
was going to say that, but I'm glad you said it. So, when I thought about your question, feeling stuck, for anybody that's feeling stuck,
Mm-hmm.
you should be really excited. You should really be excited, because that's a good place to be in. That means you realize you want to change something. You're not happy with where you're at. So get excited about that.
And you have the power to do it. It all lies within, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, it's not going to change by just getting excited about it. There has to be action and
Yes.
action along the way.
Yeah.
But you can sit there and feel as stuck as long as you want, and you will if that's the way you keep choosing to think.
Right. Do you believe you know the difference between expansiveness and contractedness, obviously, right? Living expansively and living in a contracted way. And I think people that are stuck, that live in a contracted way, they're the ones that they fall into victimhood very easily. And
Yes.
oftentimes that's where they end up with nothing. Then it's nothing good about that. But when you become expansive, when you with affirmations and with ritual and with and I don't mean ritual as in weird woo woo stuff. I just mean ritual as in things you do to put yourself in an expansive place so you can do the things that you want to do and want to achieve the things you want to achieve. I think that's one of the secrets. Would you agree or disagree?
1000%. I would say that not everybody, I think everybody has the power, but not everybody will believe that they have the power to do
Yes.
this on their own. And fortunately, I've always felt that I had the power. But if I didn't, I would get a coach. I think I had coaches just by reading the books that I read and
Yes, you did.
also attending some of the seminars that I attended.
Yeah.
And, you're a great coach. And I would recommend people that really feel stuck and just don't know how to get to first base to find someone like you and help
Thank you,
them
Brian.
get there. Because if they can get to first base,
Yep.
then they can see second base. And then third base isn't so far away. And then they get home.
And then they can learn how to slide into home, baby.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a technique that I talk to people about. It's called the next one thing, right? And you just take and you do the next one thing, no matter how large or how small or whatever it is. That's going to move you closer to either away from where you don't want to be or closer to where you do want to be. And you do the one thing. And then when you do the one thing, you figure out what the next one thing is, and you do it. And you do that. A former client of mine did that. And he also, there's a phrase that I use called up until now. Up until now, this may have been your circumstance, but now, as you said, get excited about being stuck, because now you have the opportunity to change it. Up until now, you may have been stuck. Today, right now, at this moment, you can do the next one thing and begin to change that. And he did that, and within he'd been stuck, and he was stuck. He's a professional poker player, good guy.
Okay.
And he's wanting more from life, because poker's fun. You can make a lot of money playing it, but it's just money, right? And he wanted to do some other things. He was big into meditation, into retreats. He wanted to become a coach. Well, within 9 months, he has become a world-class coach, and he's been doing it now for well over a year. And all because of and what he told me was, what the two things that resonated with him were the up until now mindset, and then the next one thing. And so that's what he started doing. He started doing the next one thing, ended up getting affiliated with one of the most successful coaches in the country, who's got his back and recommends him and refers him all over. So that doesn't hurt either, but none of that would have happened had he not taken that to heart and done exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
you
very
know.
good. And I'm sure
Yeah.
he's so much more fulfilled than just playing poker. Not that there's anything wrong with playing poker, but
No,
I
exactly. Yeah.
imagine being being able to touch the people that he touches and helps the people, helping the people that he helps and seeing their progress. That's incredibly
Yeah.
rewarding. That's why
It is.
school teachers, I think, for the most part, are just so underappreciated for all that
Yes.
they do.
100%. I would agree. My dad was a high school teacher and coach and athletic coach, and yeah, and the same. He didn't do it for the money, you know. That's because there wasn't any money in it,
That's
you
right.
know. But he did it. He did it for the reward and for the fact that he was helping other people, and he knew it, and that came back to him in spades over the course of his lifetime too, you
Certainly.
know. And
You,
Brian, I mean, we. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I mean,
I
cut you
was
off.
going to say the one step you talk about,
Mhm.
just to elaborate, it doesn't matter how big or small that step
No,
is. It could be just something as simple as wake up a half hour earlier today if you think you don't have time to read 30 minutes to fill your brain with good, positive things
right.
instead
Or
of
it
watch the news
could just be waking up.
and not be in a good mood.
Exactly, exactly. So I have a friend of mine who has recently lost his job, and he's sending me, and we're kind of texting back and forth right now, and he's telling me today that he is so stressed, you know, and that kind of thing, and it's pretty obvious that's what he's focusing on is that stress in his life. How would you, if you were talking to somebody like that, not him specifically, but somebody like that that was in that situation, what would your advice be, or what would your recommendation be?
Well, it's very tough, just because I'm kind of visualizing me going through the angst that I did when
Right,
I wasn't making any money.
right,
Um, but again, it's what you focus on is what you're going to get. And if you're only
right,
focused on stress, is he putting out all of the effort that he could be to find what he's looking for,
right.
as far as a job?
Yeah,
Who
and
is he
that's what.
connecting with?
Yes,
Who are his
yeah,
contacts? You know,
yeah. Is he looking at alternatives to maybe something he's done in the past? You know, I know I was laid off when I was in the radio business. I was laid off in 2015, and radio I'd done it for 35 years. And I was on the business side, so I was a turnaround specialist, and I was a sales trainer, and all that kind of thing. And one of my handles at one point was even radio coach at yahoo.com, one of my email addresses, because that's how I kind of approached it that way, as coaching instead of just sales management, you know. Um, but when I got laid off, it was kind of like, oh wow, what? I mean, I've done this last 35 years of my life. Now what? Ended up getting into the metal art sign business of all things with my sister, and ended up buying a 4 by 8 foot plasma cutter, you know, automatic plasma cutter table. It was just amazing, and I learned how to use it. Which I'm not a mechanical guy, Brian. That's not my forte. I'm much more up here, right? But I learned how to use it, did it successfully for several years, and now I'm into this gig, and this is my third career, and it's very interesting where life takes you, as long as you're open to possibility too, and maybe different possibilities.
very good. I just reflecting on a friend from several years ago that I met at a business networking event.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to this event because he was trying to find a job. He was an IT person, was accustomed to making $80 an hour, as a consultant,
Right.
whatever. And then he was months and months and months without work. And we became friends and still friends to this day. And so I'm thinking this was 7, 8 years ago. I know it was well pre-COVID, but anyway, he had gone without work for quite some time. And what did he do? He kept going to these events. He kept introducing himself to people. If he could have just stayed home and done
Yeah.
nothing and sent resumes out to companies, which really is
Yeah.
not so effective.
No.
But he had the belief because I'd ask him because I know he didn't have a lot of money because he was like me way back. He was running out of his funds, hadn't
Right.
worked in a while. But he goes, I just know it's all going to work out. Every time I saw him, he goes, he was a yogi like myself, meaning he practiced yoga, meditation, and all that. Just, I just know it's going to work out. And that was what he was focusing on. I know it's going to work out. Now, it didn't happen for many months, but he did find a job, and he still got this job working as a consultant. And I know he's making, gosh, let's just say very, very, very good money, much
Good.
more than he was making before. He's got a
Good.
house, it's paid off, and just doing very well. But I
Nice.
believe it is because of his mindset and where he was focused and his
Yeah.
belief that it was going to happen.
100%. And again, he never gave up. He never quit. He never stopped.
Yep. And
I think this person, go ahead. Sorry.
he just wasn't saying, gosh, I'm so stressed about this.
Right. Right. He wasn't focusing on the negative. He was focusing
Yeah.
on possibilities instead of
Right.
what that. Yeah, I know. And I think a lot of people that stuff like the bad stuff like that happens to. I was one of them. Get caught in the past because you get regretful, you get angry, you're disappointed, you're hurt. I mean, all these emotions and all these things, and so easy to get wrapped up in that and stay there, right? When, as you say, life, what you focus on is what you're going to end up with. And when people realize that can become a youth watershed moment for them, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, it's okay to get angry about something that happened and
Yes, it is.
pick up a pillow and beat it up, but get it out of your system as quickly as possible, because the
Yeah.
quicker you get on with it, the quicker things are going to turn around.
Yeah, because people get, if that's what they dwell on and focus on, that's what they spend their time doing, is hating on what happened and thinking about what went before. They'll never move forward ever,
Correct.
and that's it's just not good. You know, that's how I see. That's my phrase. It's just not good. You know, it doesn't end
way
well.
of putting it.
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't end well, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, we're 41 minutes or 40 minutes or so into this interview. This has been awesome. I mean, I could talk to you for days.
Likewise,
Literally.
I appreciate
Really
it.
could. Yeah, thank you. Is there anything? Let's touch about on one more subject, and then I'd like to have a final thought from you before we wrap up here. I told you, I think I mentioned to you that I would ask about vision, the importance of vision. You know, because to me, without vision, nothing else happens. Can you speak to that a little bit? Just your take on it.
Well, that's, I think, partially what goals are. You're setting what you want. And a lot of people that write goals, whether it's a New Year's resolution, most people's New Year's resolutions are done in 2 weeks. But people that sit down and methodically write goals, they have something on paper. So that's much better than a New Year's resolution. But what is your goal? I set annual goals in a few different categories in my life, but then I set monthly goals to get to those annual goals. Right. So if you set an annual goal and it sits in a binder and you don't look at it till November, you think you probably accomplished that goal?
Yeah, probably not.
Not very likely. By focusing and visualizing and seeing those goals in process or completed, and ideally completed, that you're already achieving them, I don't know what it does, but it affects your subconscious in a way that, yeah, we don't totally understand the subconscious, but
right.
Subconscious is the most powerful thing. You can make yourself believe that anything you want.
Yeah.
You can, and we've heard many stories about someone believing it even though it wasn't true, because of the power of keeping on programming their brain that this is what it is. Right. So that's, I hope I kind of answer your question, that visualization is so important in seeing things in a finished state. But then along the way, like I said, when I go to bed at night, appreciation, gratitude. But I also, and I didn't mention, but I also visualize at least one of the things that I want to accomplish in a short period of time.
Well, I believe that's where manifestation comes from. I believe that's how it happens. And I believe it happens both directions, by the way. I mean, people think about, they hear the word manifestation and they think it's woo-woo, or they think it's new age, or they think whatever, but they also think it's only this applies to good stuff. But manifestation, I mean, everything manifests. Everything that happens in your life is a manifestation of something, you know. And I think it goes right back to what you said earlier, Brian. You can focus on the bad, and that's what you're going to end up manifesting. And you can focus on what you want, and that's what you'll end up manifesting, or a version of that, or something. And have you ever noticed the? I don't know. I use a vision board sometimes. I haven't recently, but I have in the past several different times. Do you use vision boards, or have you ever?
I made up one, The Secret came out, what year
Yeah,
was it, 2007 or something, and I had a vision board. And
yeah,
yes, I think it's important. Um, but I think reprogramming your brain and telling yourself and seeing it within inside yourself is as if not even more important than looking at something on the wall that you put together, unless you're
yeah,
totally focused on that and that's what you're visualizing
yeah.
in your
That's your.
subconscious.
I think it is a good tool to teach people how to visualize too.
Yes,
You know, I really do.
for
I
sure.
think it's like, I think it can be effective for that reason. Um, but that's kind of probably why I go in and out of them. You know, I kind of go depending on where I'm headed and what I want to do. I kind of go in and out of having a vision board and not having one. You
Yeah.
know, just kind of depends. Any final thoughts that you want to put out there?
Well, if you could see my wall over here, and maybe
Yes,
I could
sir.
the computer, but this isn't a vision board,
Oh,
but if you
wow.
can see all of this here,
Yes.
this is my mastermind group. So we've got, from W. Clement Stone to Napoleon Hill to Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, or I already said Martin Luther King, Jack LaLanne. This is my mastermind group. This is my family.
Nice.
These are some awards, and it's not there to gloat or anything. It's there as a reminder of what's possible and to keep me motivated.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Very cool.
I always want to continue to grow, and that's the biggest takeaway I think here is feel stuck. Okay, feel stuck for a day or a couple days, but
There
then
you go.
get over it and get excited because, gosh, we all see how.
I'm gonna take you everywhere I go. I love the guitar too, by the way. Didn't know you
Oh yeah,
played.
it's
That's
fun.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Very cool. Well, Brian, I want to just again thank you so much for taking your time today, and I know especially here at the end of the year when you're planning for 2026 and all that kind of thing. This has been an invaluable conversation on so many levels. And what I do with these conversations, I'll go through and I'll create timelines of takeaways, and I'll put it in my daily emails. I'll send you a copy of the email. I mean, not the email. I'll send you a copy of the video. I'll send you the interview, the entire thing. I'll also send you the timeline I come up with after I get it put together, and you can kind of take it from there. But it is very cool of you to do this. And again, I do truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, it's more than my pleasure, and I will just say this: if only one person gets one takeaway, it was more than worth it. Because as the old
Absolutely.
adage, I think I said before, not today, but with you, is to the world you are one person, but to one person you are the world.
There you go. Well, like I can't think of ending on a better note. Thank you,
Thanks,
Brian. I
John.
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Take care.